Welcome to the Raise Up Mindset podcast with your hosts, Charlie and Athena Grimm.
Welcome back to the Raise Up Mindset podcast. I'm Athena, your host today, and Charlie is taking a little break for this episode, and I have Kimberly Fischer here with me. And Kimberly is somebody that I have had the pleasure to know most of my life, and I have seen her just change and grow and shift and just really master corners of her entrepreneurial journey that it's just been a joy to witness. And so today we're going to talk about the stuck factor.
Okay.
When we get stuck. So welcome.
Thank you
for coming.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate that.
Yes. And, we know so much about each other. Mm-hmm. And we've literally grown up together. We have ran businesses side by side together. We've been in the same industries at points in our life. And now you're in the restaurant business and the real estate business. Mm-hmm. And we could look at this two ways. Like really what I'm hoping the audience gets to receive from you is this space of you could be anywhere. You could be just starting, you could be in midstream, or you could be in that time where you're ready to retire. But either way, we all move into these places where we get stuck. We lose momentum, or we forget about actually taking action happens in mid-stride. Mm-hmm. So could you just talk about some of those moments early on in your entrepreneurial journey where you were starting to recognize that this stuck thing is actually a thing and no one's coming to save you because you are the one mm-hmm. that's responsible for making sure it all happens?
Right. So I kind of feel like I was given a toolbox when I started out that was pretty empty. And so I recognized early on, I don't know if you remember this book, but we were like in our early 20s and it was called Stop That Thought that I read. And the book basically said to go get a pillow and scream in it when your mind was in this loop of saying things that you wanted to, you get into these crazy, where you're just spinning is what I call it. And I think that's really funny that's what I remember from the book. I'm sure there was more from it, but I could see there was this pattern that I was stuck in and I wanted to change it. And I knew that the toolbox that I had from my parents and from my upbringing was empty and it wasn't giving me the tools to change this person that I was. And I knew I could become somebody different. So I started reading books. Books have been just incredibly pivotal for me. I love them so much because my life has been changed dramatically, sometimes overnight, just by somebody writing words that gave me perspective that made me see the world in a different way. And I can see as an entrepreneur, I struggled a lot. And before that, my husband, when we got married, he had children, and so we had a blended family, so we struggled in that area. And then there was a period of time in our marriage where we struggled, and every time I had the struggle, I would go out and I'd read every resource that I could find to help me be better at this. And then we started a marriage group, and so I was like, I need to know how to be a leader. So I read every leadership book that there was out there. And then I don't know why, but it didn't translate. We had started the business that we have now, Main Event, and we were pivoting and opening a brick and mortar. We had run as a catering company and a food truck for I think about 4 years. And we were arguing in front of our bookkeeper, and our bookkeeper goes, "You guys need to read the book E-Myth." And I laughed because I thought, I know this stuff. Read a book and it'll teach you, you know what I mean? And so we did. It was the first book that him and I read together about business. And it gave me a whole new appreciation for who he was and his skill set. And it gave him an appreciation, and it really helped us. So I'm a huge advocate for books. I think that they help you get unstuck, because what you need is a perspective shift. I am a perfect example of once I changed my perspective about anything, my entire world changed and I changed. And so, man, if you can just get that, and that's why written word to me has been really helpful. But it doesn't necessarily have to be a book. It could be a podcast. It could be somebody that you're following on social media. It can be, you can go to an event. There's lots of ways. But when we're stuck in our own brain, we tend to not be able to see the answers because we're in that crazy cycle of spinning. And so, yeah, I would say that was probably how the best way that I've ever been able to get myself unstuck is by reading a book. But I did actually get this business that we're in. It's a restaurant. If you've ever had a restaurant or owned a restaurant, I would say that if you don't like somebody, recommend them to open a restaurant. It's a hard industry to make money in. It's a hard industry to work, to raise a family. It can be incredibly demanding. It was really difficult for me to figure out how to do this well, and it ended up affecting my health. So I did go to the doctor 2022, and I went to her because I wasn't feeling well, and I'd also been trying to lose weight for a long time, and I couldn't. I did all the things right, and I sat down with her, and she was like, "I think you're diabetic," and I was like, "I'm not diabetic. I have a son that's diabetic," and she goes, "You look pretty sick to me, and you're sicker than you were the last time I saw you," and it was like 3 years prior. And I said, "Well," and she goes, "Why don't you go home and just test your blood sugar every morning and come back in 2 weeks and talk to me?" And I was like, I couldn't believe it that she was right. And anyway, sitting in her office, she was so excited to tell me all the things when I finally admitted, "You're right, I'm type 2 diabetic now." And she's at her computer like this, and she's telling me, "Oh, and you're going to do this, and you're going to do this. Oh, yeah, and I want you to do this, and I want you to start taking this, and you're going to do this." And I'm sitting in my seat listening to her, and I just kept shrinking all the things that she was excited. She knew all the things to fix everything. And it made me feel incredibly small, and I felt like I wasn't going to be able, there's just no way I'm going to be able to do all of those things. And at some point, I think she recognized I was shrinking, and she stopped typing, and she looked at me and she said, "Look, I just need you to start doing some change, some things differently. I don't want you to drive to work the same way. I don't want you to eat the same food every day. I want you to brush your teeth with your left hand." And then she explained to me what happens inside your brain when you do that. You get into these routines and these ruts, and we want our life to stay the same. And I was pretty much in a rut and in a routine. And in order to disrupt that, you have to make small changes. And it's interesting how little changes make such a huge effect. And because I was so overweight, she said that what happens is our brains shrink when we're overweight. I didn't know that. And you gotta do something to cause new neurological pathways to happen, and expansion to happen. And when you do that, then all those lists of things that she gave me to do become so much easier. Because before that, it was like, no, this is just how my life is, and I can't be anybody different, and I can't give that stuff up, and I'm not going to be able to. And I was super resistant to medication and all kinds of things. And so we argued quite a bit. And but when I went home, I started thinking about it, and I realized, every day I drive to work, and some days I don't even know if the lights were green because I get on such automatic path. And then I learned recently that even Harvard did this study about how your brain actually stops recording when you do the same task over and over and over again, because your brain's trying to conserve energy. So that's why you drive to work and you don't even know, because your brain just decided, we're not going to restore this. We're not going to store this information because we've done this a million times and we don't need to. And in order to change that pattern, you have to do some disruption, and just this simple taking a shower a different way was huge in my life. And I laugh at it because it's simple, but it works.
Well, and I think really the bigger thing that you're talking about right now, and I don't think there's a lot of conversation around it, is we get into a routine. We see the world the same way every single day. Our body is conditioned. Our nerves are conditioned to that. Mm-hmm. And when we start to take it into someplace new, it doesn't register that this is just change. Mm-hmm. It registers this as, I need to protect you. there's something happening. I don't know this. Anything could happen. This is scary. And fear sets in.
Mm-hmm.
And so the wisdom that your doctor had to go, I just need you to do something different,
Mm-hmm.
because it sent a signal to your body. Your nervous system is actually going through change, and this is what it feels like and looks like. And it's okay, Kimberly. We're just brushing our teeth with our left hand.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're doing another baby step. But I think that is really important, because another aspect of that is when we stay out of survival mode, we're no longer like, we are actively regulating ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of have a joke around here where I work that it's we're not going, oh my gosh, I can't believe they did that. We're like, I'm regulating right now. I'll be right back. Because it doesn't just happen overnight for some of us.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? You're no longer going, oh, they got me again, or I can't believe I fell for that. It's, I'm regulating, I need a minute, and then I'll be back.
That's
And but that's really it. Is it's like there is so much wisdom in just focusing in and listening to the body.
Mm-hmm.
And that regulation piece is everything. And it's like, I eventually found out for myself that I prefer that state over everything else.
Mm-hmm.
I love amusement, don't get me wrong, but I, as the number one, prefer to be centered.
Mm-hmm. I think if everyone were to be honest with themselves, they want to be centered. They don't want to live in chaos. It just gets to be your routine.
Mm.
And then sometimes you don't see it, that there's a possibility that there could be any other way.
Yeah.
I did live in a lot of chaos owning a restaurant for a very long time, and I actually joined a mastermind group, and he explained how we can get out of those patterns, and I was super grateful for that. I learned how to set up SOPs and systems and policies and procedures that made life a little bit easier. But it wasn't until a year ago, right about Christmas time, I ruptured a disc in my back, and it forced me to not do anything anymore. And that was really helpful. I actually wrote on this, I would sit at my desk and I had this dry erase board on my wall, and I wrote, I can't do shit, so I might as well be productive. So I sat down and I started taking courses and learning how to do things, and then allowing my general manager to actually lead, which was something that I wasn't doing prior to that. So yeah, it's been really, I'm super grateful for the interruptions that make me decide that, okay, well, I can't do what I've always been doing, so how are we going to navigate this differently?
You know, and what I love is the picture that you painted around how we actually get momentum in the things that we want.
Mm-hmm.
It starts with, we have to decide.
Mm-hmm.
And then the action starts to follow. And if it's just a small baby step, that's fine, because that small baby step brings a bigger loop and a bigger loop. And then the next thing you know, all of these opportunities are showing up that are pointing you into that direction, and you can't explain it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what's happening?
Right.
Is it voodoo? Is it God? I don't know, but whatever it is. And it's really, your words matter.
Mm-hmm.
What you focus it in on matters. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I believe that is how momentum is generated.
Mm-hmm.
Is that you get really clear about what you want and you focus in on that.
Mm-hmm.
It's when we take time to rescue somebody out of a situation, it's like we are cutting off their creativity, like juice.
Yeah, you're depriving them of growth.
Well, it's, if they know the problem solved, they stop thinking about ways to solve it. And let me tell you,
Mm-hmm.
like, being an entrepreneur, if nobody's coming to save you, you are the one. And so there has been, it's almost like dialed up to 10 in some instances on, how are we going to fix this? Well, if no's not an option, or failure's not an option, or this isn't an option, then, and we always had that fun little saying to try to reassure ourselves, well, what's the worst case scenario?
Right.
And we would say, the worst case scenario is that we will end up living together.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to starve, and nobody's going to be homeless. And so just go do it. And then the other piece of that was, but we don't want to live with each other's husbands.
Mm-hmm.
So that's never going to be a thing now that we're married.
Well, it was nice to always have a backup plan.
Yes. We knew that we were the backup plan.
Right.
And crazy.
Homelessness wasn't an option, so how are we going to make this work? Bill likes to say, if you had a magic wand and you could do whatever you wanted, what would you do? And then he goes, well, tell me how you can make that happen then.
Yes.
Because it's always possible. And I like to say, what needs to be true so that this can happen? I'm frustrated because my leadership team does X, Y, Z. Well, what needs to be true so that they do what you need them to do? And how do we work backwards from that? Yeah. And anything is possible. Actually, that's on my mirror right now. It is possible, because if I want to do it, it's possible.
Yeah, and I would say that my interpretation of that would be everything is possible.
Well, anything is. You can do anything if you really put your mind to it,
Yes.
honestly. Yeah, we live in such a wonderful time when you could do anything. I was listening to a podcast earlier where he talked about from basically 0 to the 1700s, if you were born poor, you weren't able to get out of that. There wasn't the opportunity in the economy or how people lived. You were poor. If you were born into a family that owned land, you were wealthy.
Had a leg up.
Yeah, you had a leg up. It wasn't until machines were invented that it started to change the game for everybody. And just looking at all the ages that we went through, the industrial age and the technology age and all of that, now where we're at today, people are afraid, but I look at it as these are opportunities. And today, you don't have to own the machines and you don't have to own the land. You just have to have information. And it's endlessly possible to do anything if you have information. So I think it's kind of cool and it's exciting, and I'm not afraid.
That's awesome. And really, I think some of the greatest information that I've received has been in the moments when I've had the courage to just face the things that I didn't want to face. I can look at moments for myself when I've been in a place of being stuck. It's stuck in procrastination.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that the age-old saying for smaller business is doing bookkeeping, procrastinating on getting the information into the system, because you've got so many other things that you want to do. And that just, oh my gosh, we just need that for taxes and some information to make some decisions down the road. But it's like I look back on, oftentimes the comments that come back to yourself are, gosh, I just wish I would have just taken care of that. Like, I just made it out to be such a big deal, and it wasn't actually a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get further down the road and you're like, yeah, I don't prefer to do that. I don't do that particularly well or timely. I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a professional who loves to do that, who that's their contribution to the Love Best. And I'm going to recognize them and be grateful for them and send them love on that. And they're going to do it because they love spreadsheets and they love, bookkeeping systems.
Yep.
And they dig into all the little details that I just don't want to know about. But I still need to have some insight into. And so it can feel like such a relief. But at the same time, it's you have to be willing to acknowledge those aspects.
For sure. What I always tell people, as soon as you can hire your weakness, instead of thinking that you're going to save yourself money by doing it yourself. And what I call that, when you hire a bookkeeper or something like that, I like to call it partnering, because it sounds so much easier. I'm partnering with you so that we can achieve a goal, and it just is better than saying, well, I have to let somebody else do it. Easier than saying that to yourself, because sometimes it feels like I have to be in control. And but if you're in control of everything, you'll never get rest, and you will be very, very frustrated.
Well, and you don't actually have control in the sense that you think you do. It's like, I think the disease of small business is that you have to do everything and wear all these hats because nobody does it better than you do.
Right.
And that's just simply not true. You have information to do it maybe faster at times because you're in the mix of all of it, But at the end of it, is you doing 50 things kind of decent, better than like different people doing those tasks extremely well? I would say no.
I would agree. But even if they only do it as 80% as good as you do, it's still off of your plate so that you can focus on what is important. So yeah, protect, prioritize, partner, and purge. Those are what I have on my wall to remind myself. Protect the things that give me energy, like exercise and eating well and taking care of my health. And then prioritize the things that give me energy and make me money. But when it doesn't give me energy, I'm partnering with somebody else that it gives them energy so that they can do it instead of me. And then I purge the stuff that I really don't need to be dealing with. There are so many things that we take on that we think should be on our plate that really shouldn't be on our plate.
That nobody cares about.
Yeah. Or maybe somebody cares about, but we shouldn't.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, I'm really good at setting boundaries now in my life because we're in real estate and there is the opportunity for me to do a lot more than I'm actually doing. I set boundaries and I go, you know what? I don't have to be the one that does that. We bought a couple of properties that had some deferred maintenance, and we went down to work on some of these properties, but my focus was finding a contractor that does it for me so that I don't have to. Yes. And I'm so grateful that we did because he's just the best, really, really great guy, and it's helping his family. So why wouldn't I want to just partner with him and let him deal with that, and then I'm not the one cleaning up the things that I shouldn't be cleaning up.
Well, and I think it's something to be said if you're in a place where you are not able to receive. Mm-hmm. There's something that you need to sit with on that. If nobody can ever help you with something, or you, like I knew somebody that it was, you couldn't even get the door for them because they were like, oh no, I got it. And it's like, just receive. Because part of being in that place of receiving is that you're allowing somebody to shine in their own gift or to do something kind. When we do nice things for others, aren't we rewarded for that? Like internally, don't we just feel like, oh yeah, that's so good.
Dopamine boost that happens for you and that person and anybody else watching. It's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, and this whole thing like comes back to this bigger piece of my puzzle in my own life, which is being in service to the whole. Mm-hmm. Is what I'm doing serving all of us? Mm-hmm. Or is it just serving me in the moment? Is it just serving that individual? Is it just serving that organization? And it's like every time I work the puzzle, I can always figure out a way where it serves us all. Mm-hmm. The whole is being served in it. And I didn't actually, I don't even know if I would have been able to get that information as a young business owner, but there is so much power in being able to receive that it's like, and it's not coming from a place of everybody's just going to serve me. It's this intentional, I receive so that you can share your gift mm-hmm. and that you can contribute, just like I'm contributing over here. And then in it, none of us are in survival mode. None of us are overwhelmed because we're serving in ways that bring us energy, that we're fired up about, that make us happy, that we can talk about for days. Right. That, you know, it's like, it's funny how the stuff that we really are interested in and that we love, we never run out of words to talk about. Mm-hmm. And it's like all of us have that in us. And thank God it's not the same thing. Right. Because that's how this whole thing works. And it's so much fun to just see those patterns and to witness everybody in their own little spot and then giving them the opportunity to step into it and also being the one to share. Mm-hmm. It's good stuff. I love it. The stuck thing can feel heavy at times. And, you know, I mentioned this in an earlier podcast, but I remember when I first came into ground transportation and that first summer that I was in the operation manager position, I literally had this vision of this steamroller just rolling over me every day with incidences. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, how does this just blindside me every day? There's 10 things that blindside me. And I was just like, I sat down with myself and I'm like, look, girl, you gotta like figure this out. Like, you can't have these like random incidences happening with cars and these random incidences happening with drivers. And like, it brought me to a place of what I don't want. I don't want all of this. This is like draining me and sucking the life out of me. Mm-hmm. I have to get in front of this. And I did the same thing. I went to the books. Mm-hmm. The answers are in the books. Mm-hmm. We live in Alaska, and there are mentors here. I absolutely, we have a smaller population than a lot of places, mm-hmm. and we're isolated away from the continental United States. Mm-hmm. Accessing media, accessing books was like the access like that we had, especially when you're not making a lot of money. Like, you can spend $20 on a book. Mm-hmm.
It's true. And oftentimes that information in the book is the same information you'll get in the mastermind group, and it's the same information that you would get if you spent a day with that person. It's just delivered in a different way. And I 100% agree. They always tell you to get in the rooms with people that you want to be like, and your 5 closest friends are going to influence you the most. And I would think to myself, well, how do I get these people to want to hang out with me? I know. If I'm nobody, but you don't actually have to physically be in their presence. You can just, and it's really funny because for a really long time I would pray, God, could you just give me a mentor? I just want somebody to spend time with me and to help me. And it was really when I started out as a stepmom, I really just wanted someone. And my community did not have blended families. They were all these women that had lots of children, and they were great homeschool.
Had one husband.
Parents. Yeah, they've only been married once. So all of my struggles, I remember the pastor's wife, I was sharing with her a struggle with my kids, and she said, well, when my children were babies, I taught them to listen to me. And I was like, Billy was 4 when I met him. So that doesn't apply to me. That doesn't help me. And it was frustrating. And I would pray, Lord, just bring me a mentor, somebody. And I always thought it would be like this older woman that looked like a grandma that would make tea and we'd eat cookies and she'd tell me all the life stories. And the truth is that I didn't get that. And in fact, someone came to me and said, hey, I was really thinking about your husband and I think I want to mentor him. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. That's super cool. And then like 6 months goes by and another guy comes to me and says, hey, I was thinking about mentoring your husband. And at this point, I'm like, okay, Lord, I said me, right? I was like, someone for me, not for him, for me. and then it wasn't until about 6 months ago, I was reading a book when I was reading the introduction. And he said, I thought it was really cool that I finally got to meet my author mentor. This person didn't know, but I've read every single book they've ever written, and they have mentored my life. And I read that, and I closed the book, and I set it down, and I started to cry. Because I was like,
you got it.
I didn't know. Every time I was praying for a mentor, God was like, here's another book. Here's another book. Because he knew that for me, books transformed my life. He knew exactly how I was designed and what I needed. And meeting with somebody would have been fantastic too. But this
was that
really
even realistic with new families? And for the record, Kimberly has only been married once, but
I just happen to have we have 5 children.
You
and then
met somebody who had children mm-hmm. already, and then you guys had children together, and then you have some other interesting scenarios that happened that brought more children into your life.
Yeah.
And it was like
we love everyone.
But you're right. It's like we're constantly looking for the way that we think it should turn out.
Yeah, I put it in a box.
And that's not how it happens. It's mm-hmm. like it's way bigger than we ever can imagine. And that's why that phrase that you mentioned earlier about, well, what's the very biggest thing that you could imagine? Like, I always think, how big can I create this? Mm-hmm. Like, how many layers can we go?
Right.
And it's never what we think it is. Mm-hmm. It's like, I often think that life is about teaching us that things are not what they seem.
And when you realize that you asked for something and it's probably not going to come in the package that you wanted it to, but it's probably going to be way better.
Yeah, it's always way better.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always like, oh my gosh, this is so cool.
Yeah, I totally agree. And and now I just feel like it's always preparation for the next thing, right? Mm-hmm. So that's part of why the direction that I'm going now is I can see where I've been, I can see the patterns and the decisions that I've made along the way, the things that have brought me to where I am today, and now I want to reach back and help somebody else. And so that's what I spend a lot of my time doing, is creating, and I have a book that's going to hopefully be done in the next 2 months if I stay on my timeline. So just helping other people to do what I've learned how to do, because that's what it's all about. It's not about I'm going to figure it all out, I'm going to keep everything for myself. It's I'm going to figure this out, I'm going to take everybody else with me.
Well, it's I'm figuring out what my version is, and I'm going to share my story. Mm-hmm. And if it resonates with you and it serves you, take the information, because we're all just big information exchanges.
Absolutely.
And that's why remembering that the feedback loop is such an important part of that. And how can you get strategic about cultivating those loops, building that trust with others, so that they can show themselves to you and you can show yourself to them. And because most of the time, if you're somebody that's even spent a little bit of time on earth, you've noticed that you can see some patterns. Mm-hmm. Not all patterns, but you'll be able to go, like I remember when we were younger, and like my oldest boy was like, okay, let me explain to you what it looks like for girls with daddy wounds. Avoid these women.
Yeah.
You know,
it's
like
good that you taught that.
They got daddy issues, you know. That was only one little tiny pattern that I saw in that season of my life that I was exchanging information with my oldest son on. But there's so many more out there. And you can laugh about that, but the girl who had those wounds didn't consciously know she had them, but we saw the patterns. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And all of us have these loops and patterns in our life. And if we could be a little more curious and a little less defensive and a little less scared to face them, we could clear them and move on to even more productivity, greatness, momentum, happiness, joy.
I agree.
And the stuck factor would never be a thing.
I think the fastest way to be successful is to be willing to accept feedback, because you will grow the fastest in that space. I would agree.
I owe my husband the largest amount of gratitude for all that he has taught me through that relationship.
Oh yeah.
And you know, when I look back on just all the time of like all the loops that we were in over the years, and we're talking about like both of us are coming into like almost 30 years of like being friends with these people that we've been married to, you know. And I'm just like, I have just told him before, I'm like, you never have to apologize to me for anything, because even if he shows up and he's a little, I call it prickly that day, it reminds me that human gets to show up and be whoever he is today. And I've agreed to that. That is my agreement to myself. And so if he shows up that way, that's just an opportunity for me to show up the way that I've agreed to show up every day.
Right.
And that's it. And not put judgment on it. And not judge myself for it either. And when I look at that, like I'm grateful for those reminders, because I don't want to be in judgment to anybody, especially myself. I feel like I spent so many years of my life judging how I looked, judging how I performed, judging how I handled things, judging how I didn't handle things. And it's like that season of life is closing. The judgment for myself is moving, and the judgment for others is moving too. And when we can just stay a little open, stay curious, guess what? They actually didn't mean to be rude. There's something else going on that I just didn't, like I jumped to conclusions and had a story because of the way I used to handle things. And so it's like there's all of this resistance that starts to dissipate. And the stories start to dissipate. And then it just ends up being life. And it's so good. So I've said all of that to say that stuck is never the final destination, but there's also hope that you eventually it's like you start to figure out how to move through it. Then it starts showing up less and less and less. And then it's like our kids. One day we picked them up for the very last time.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't tell you what day that was, but we know it happened because they're grown-ups now.
Mm-hmm.
And it just like, it drifted. And that's how some of these patterns, they leave us.
Mm-hmm.
So we decide we don't want that anymore. We figure out what we do want. And one day they just leave and we don't even notice. And then we turn back and we're like, oh my gosh, I don't do that anymore. Shit, that's cool.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. There are times in my life where I've decided I was going to be different. And sometimes it took a little bit for that to stick. And then eventually, it's just who I am. And I'm grateful.
Yes, yes. And I love your story about helping your body get used to change. Mm-hmm. When you were so locked into, this is what I'm doing, this is my pattern. And it's like, and it was just something small.
I literally sat on my couch one day and said, I guess this is just how life is going to be now. But I knew that was a lie and that was not who I was. And I'm glad I went to the doctor because I needed new information so that I could become something different. And that was what books were for me for a really long time. And I actually just got a bunch of my blood work back and things are looking really good. And I'm super grateful. And she asked me, she said, did we do this in the beginning? And I said, no, I wish we would have, because we would have such a bigger picture right now.
Oh, yes,
of
the
how
baseline.
Much growth. Yeah, I don't have it. So, but that's okay. But it's really nice to feel like I'm healthy and I have the opportunity for a really long life because I'm making different choices for myself. And I'm just really grateful for that, for sure. I think that, it's good to recognize the areas where I got stuck. I call them speed bumps. When I see that there's like this speed bump that I can't seem to get over, there's an opportunity for a solution. Instead of thinking, oh, it's all awful and horrible and everything's end of the world.
Yes, and we need each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why that feedback loop again is so important, because I remember I was having a situation where I noticeably saw that I was losing short-term memory. And I remember talking to one of our friends and she was like, that's just how it is when you like get over 40. Just deal with it. And I'm like, I don't accept that. Mm-mm. And I started reading all these books. Mm-hmm. And then I started tweaking my diet here and tweaking my diet there. And one thing lit up. Mm-hmm. And I noticed my memory was coming back like with a force. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I figured something out.
That's good.
And it was like, what's your memory worth? Let me tell you, nothing. Nothing that you can eat is ever worth like not having that particular aspect of your of your cognitiveness. And but then it was like, what else can I do?
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of grateful for the challenge because I didn't know I needed it. Mm-hmm. And so that's why when things come up, I'm like, okay, what do I need to know here? Yeah. I'm not in the pit of, I got to figure this out. I feel like a steamroller. It's, all right, we ride it, dawn, bitches. You know what I mean? It's like, and so, so even the stuff that feels heavy, I'm like, bring it on, because I know there's a gift like that is probably bigger than I can imagine wrapped in this. Agreed. And that's all it is it's just waiting to be discovered. But you have to be willing to like take up the gauntlet. Yeah.
And that's where, for me, it was it was going to the doctor, but then when we decided, Bill had gone first. He turned 50 and he decided he was going to work out every day for 90 days, and it turned into a whole year. And then after his whole year of working out every day, I thought, I was recording him to share his story for the last year, and I was thinking, I watched you get up every day and work out, and it didn't seem like you were being tortured. So I think I could probably do that too. But something happens when you do something every day consecutively for a long period of time. Your brain goes, hey, I really like this, and actually look at all these positive things that have come because you did this. And then I started thinking, what else can I give up? What else can I do? Where else can I make changes? because it didn't feel as impossible anymore.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's that's the best set of momentum. 100%. And
Yeah.
so you guys have heard a bunch of different stories, a bunch of different connection points to what we looked like when we were stuck, some of the things that we realized to get out of some of that stickiness, and where that has brought us to today. And I hope it's been an encouragement. If they were to reach out to you or wanted to know more about you, where would they find you?
You can find me at kimberlyfischer.com. Fischer is spelled Fischer, or I'm on all of the social medias, Kimberly Fischer.
Awesome.
So.
And what about your podcast? Where's that?
My podcast is on Spotify and on YouTube. It's called Motipulation. It's a combination of manipulation and motivation. That it's a way of encouraging people to become the best versions of themselves. And it's interesting. Those words are like two sides of one coin. They are very effective tools that we can utilize in ourselves, and also when we're leading other people to help them just grow and be who they are called to be, and we get to be the facilitators of helping call that out of them.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We love to hear your comments and questions. You can go to raiseupmindset.com and ask them there, or you can DM Charlie or myself. See you next time.